And ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all of you. Welcome. Tonight, it is level 3, class 8. You know what that means? It means we've made it all the way to the end, and tonight is the conclusion of the foundations of stocks and options. So you guys have really come a long way. It's hard to believe that 3 months has already passed. Actually, it's a little bit more than that, I think, 3.5 months by the time you add in the breaks and everything. But anyway, tonight's class, we call it Ready, Set, Action, and it's really simple. We're just going to do a quick review, and by quick review, it'll be fairly quick, and have a few parting words for you. And I realize that there's a presidential debate tonight, so if you guys want to go watch that, you're not going to offend me. It does not start for another hour. The easiest thing to do is just, put your TiVo or something on, but, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you decide that that's more interesting than me. I realize that you can hear me over and over, and they just do their thing. Granted, all politicians pretty much say the same thing over and over, but anyway, so just want to give you permission if you feel like you need to do that. And for the rest of you, we're going to have a great class. I'm looking forward to it, and we're just going to jump right in. So let's do it. Let's start with our review here, and this review is really, really simple. I'm just going to kind of go through everything. And if you have any questions, if this stimulates any ideas or any questions that you've had throughout the program, this would be a good time to fire them in there. Ask the moderators. Make some notes. This is a good time to make your notes about things that you need to come back through and review. All right, so if you remember when we got together in class number 1, Foundations Level 1, Class 1, I told you that I have one big objective, and that objective is to help you put money in your bank account with trading. How many of you feel like we have moved substantially further down that road? Maybe we're not ready to start putting your money in your bank account. Well, you're ready to put money in. Maybe you're not able to put the money in your bank account yet, but at the very least, wow, you have a tool set. You've got a database of information. You've got some skills. You got a way to build your skills. You see light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully that light at the end of the tunnel is not a freight train, right? Okay, that's a mean statement, but if you're not careful, it's what it could turn into. You think you see light at the end of the tunnel, you don't finish your learning, you don't finish your trader conditioning and everything, it turns into a freight train. Anyway, so my objective, help you put money in your bank account with trading. And that is my objective to you, or objective for you. Now, the question is, have I done that? Have I fulfilled what I promised to you? Well, I told you in the very beginning that there's 3 cornerstones, as I've broken it down, to building your trading fortress. And they are your right education, the right planning and execution, and finally, the right mindset. If we break through each of these, or kind of break them out a little bit, the right education boils down to the mechanics of trading, the analysis process, and your strategies. We've talked about the mechanics of trading. I've shown you how to place the trades in your virtual accounts, which should translate straight over to your real accounts. We've walked through a lot of trade setups. For those of you who are legacy Foundations of Stocks and Options students, that's a major addition that we added to this particular version of the Foundations of Stocks and Options. Hopefully you've got a pretty good handle on the mechanics of placing trades. Now, if you don't have a good handle on it, the good news is we've been through most of the mechanics that you need to walk through in these Foundations classes. So you can go back and you can reference those videos. If you need help beyond that, most of your brokers have really good support that will help you place trades on their platforms. Granted, I can't go through all the platforms. I did most of our examples here with Options House, but whether you're working with Thinkorswim or Options Express or whoever you're working with, they're going to have support that will help you adapt what I've taught you to their individual platforms. Beyond that, your student success coaches here at TradeSmart can often help you. And I might be wrong. I think Jeremy Newsom has done some how-to videos for at least another platform. I don't remember if it was Options Express or Thinkorswim, and I think Stacy's working on one as well. So we're trying to get at least the most popular brokers covered, but at the very basis, you've got the videos that show you the concept, then you can apply it to your individual brokers. The analysis, this is where we've spent 90% of our time, and that's because about 90% of the head knowledge you need to learn is analytical. This is the area, the analysis process of picking your stocks. This is the area where most people fall short. And what I mean by fall short, everybody gets excited about placing the trades and the strategies, and they think, oh, the analysis is really hard, so they never try to learn it. That's why I'm so heavy on the analysis process, because I realize that it's a little bit upside down. As long as you have the right analysis, the mechanics are easy to learn and the strategies are fairly easy to learn and fairly easy to implement. But the analysis process is the most important portion there in terms of that. And then, of course, the strategies. Now, the planning and execution phase, trader conditioning system. We've been through it here in level 3. We had 2 classes on it, spent a lot of time working on it. I hope that you guys have all taken it to heart and you're ready to, if you haven't already started working through it, you're ready to start working through it. We've learned about writing and following your trading plans, measuring and adjusting those plans. And then, of course, the final phase being mindset. We said you have to have a winning philosophy. It requires a shift in perspective. If you've been a losing trader up until now, you probably need a shift in perspective. And most importantly, the belief that you can do it. Now, hopefully, over the last several classes together, and by the last several, I mean the last 24, hopefully, I know I've given you a winning philosophy. Hopefully your perspectives have shifted, and most important, hopefully you're starting to see some light and say, I believe I can do this, because, not just has Jeremy done it, but, now you're starting to see some of our students. Stacy, he's a great teacher. He's a great student success coach. He's one of our students. I trained Stacy. I trained Jeremy Newsom. If you guys haven't experienced Jeremy Newsom teaching, I'm telling you what, it's scary how well I trained Jeremy Newsom. That guy is doing absolutely fantastic. He's doing great in his trades. He's doing great as a teacher. He's a phenomenal student success coach. If you can get him to do private coaching with you, he's absolutely fantastic. These guys are not any different than you. I'm only bringing them up not to just beef them up, or not just to build them up, but to take the focus off of me. You guys can sit here and say, oh, Jeremy, you've done this, but blah, blah. I'm not the important one here. The important one is that you can see people who are just 2 or 3 years down the road and see their success and see their progress and say, wow, if they can do it, I can do it. Jeremy Newsom didn't have any education in the world of trading stocks until he came through TradeSmart. Now, I'm going to tell you, he dug in and he worked his little butt off and he did a great job. But if he can do it, every one of you guys can do it absolutely just as much. All right, now the fourth step, which is not part of the 3 steps, but I said if there was only 3 steps or 3 cornerstones, you've got an incomplete building, and it's true. What's the 4th cornerstone? The 4th cornerstone is you. You've got to be committed. You've got to take action. As I look at our students who've been through the program over the years, I look at students like Jeremy Newsom, look at people like Stacy, it's really simple to see those who are successful from those who are not. Those who are not successful, they're not fully committed. They get into it, they get all excited, and then they kind of pucker out. They're not quite as excited 4 or 5 months down the road. They lose interest, they don't stick to it, and what happens? They don't have the results that they really want. They don't take action. That's the other big reason that people are failures. They don't take the action that they need. And so as long as you recognize that there's a system that you need to walk through to become a successful trader, and there's other systems, but this is the system we've got. This is essentially mimicking what Josh and I went through. As long as you recognize that, as long as you recognize that it's important and it's imperative that you are committed, that you take action, you can get to where you want to go. And of course, I always say that goals without action are simply dreams. And there's a lot of people that have a lot of goals, but they never take action. I call them dreamers. And nothing wrong with dreamers, but dreamers are not accomplishers. And I want every one of you guys to be an accomplisher. Now, along this journey, I told you my goal is to help you put money in your bank account. Well, that could be your goal. Your goals obviously are a little bit bigger than just the money alone. We talked a lot about that, talked about your creative purpose. But my goal, my obligation in this process is to help you get at least further down the road to your journey, or down the journey to your road, wherever you're going in life. Now, the trading portion is just a portion of it. But inside the trading portion of your journey in life, it is my goal to help you learn how to trade profitable. And in order to do that, you've got to learn to read the stock chart, that's the analysis, pick a direction, that's the interpretation of the analysis, and pick a strategy. This is really getting to the nuts and bolts of it. So as we started down this journey, as I started with this philosophy of how we're going to approach the market, we came to a first major psychological shift, perspective shift, and that was answering the question of what's the present value of a stock. You can't buy into a trade if you don't know what the present value is and where it should be trading and where it likely will be trading. And of course, most traders, or I should say most traditional investors, would say that the present value of a stock, or they wouldn't even say present, they would just say the value of a stock. They would say the value of the stock is based on the fundamental information. I've given you a different perspective, and I said it doesn't matter what the fundamentals say. What really matters is what the present value is, because the present value is all it's actually worth. For example, Netflix went up $6 today. Was it worth worth it? I don't know. I really don't know what Netflix should be worth. Here's what I know. It went up $6 today. Therefore, if you held Netflix yesterday at $56 a share and you're able to close it today at $62 a share, guess what? You're making a profit. That's the present value. So you say, well, how do we know what the present value is? And of course, I've given you the answer. The present value is always exactly the same. It's no more and it's no less than what someone is willing to pay for it, regardless of what the fundamentals say. And so as you understand that the present value isn't really driven by the fundamentals, sure, the fundamentals have an effect, but those fundamentals get factored in very, very quickly. As you understand that, we start to shift the way we analyze the stock. We start to shift the way our perspective of trading the stock goes, and we say, okay, what do I need to figure out? I need to figure out the present value and where that present value is likely to go. So now we have to ask a deeper question, and that question is, what really drives the price change? And of course, the answer I gave you is speculation. Now that we understand that fundamentals can only drive the price so far, and speculation is really the core driving factor, now we've got a challenge ahead of us. Because up until now, most investors who are traditional investors, they spend hours poring over earnings reports and doing all their fundamental analysis, trying to figure out what the value of the stock is, missing the fact that the value of the stock is not the important thing. What's the important thing is the present value of the stock. Now, the present value of the stock is going to be determined by speculation. So if we're going to study speculation, we've got to find a different analysis system. That different analysis system is what we refer to as technical analysis. Technical analysis, as I taught you, is the study of the price action of the market as it's reflected in the chart. Now, put it in reality. It's the study of human behavior. Human behavior is really what we're studying. Human emotion. Human emotion in the stock market as it's reflected in the price of the stock. That's what the price chart is really showing us. We call it the study of the price action because that's a more technical definition. But in reality, what we're doing is we're studying the speculation. We're studying the human emotion. Since the real driving force of the market is human emotion, it only makes sense to study the price data as it's really just a study of human emotion. That's what we're studying as technical traders. So once we laid that foundation, once we started to push forward and we understand a different perspective for how we analyze, understanding the fundamentals are not necessarily the driving factor, but rather it's human emotion. Now we've got the challenge. How do we contain human emotion? How do we chart human emotion? And the first concept I gave you was the concept of line drawing, and I introduced you to support and resistance. Support being the price point where a stock finds more buying pressure than selling pressure, and of course the buying pressure drives the price higher. And then of course resistance being the price point where a stock finds more selling pressure than buying pressure, and the selling pressure drives the price lower. This is your core concept of support and resistance. Support and resistance are the foundation of everything technical analysis. Everything in the world of technicals, outside of the philosophy, which is, digs into the Dow theory and all the philosophical understanding of technicals, everything in terms of taking technicals into action comes down to this concept of support and resistance. That leads us into line drawing. So we introduced you to line drawing. We said, what's line drawing good for? Well, line drawing gives us a framework. It provides a visual representation of the trader's sentiment. It helps us define the zones where the stock's going to make a turn. We call that a pivot area. And what do we understand from pivot areas? Well, pivot areas are where stocks make decisions. When we trade into a pivot area, we're either going up or down. Which way? It doesn't matter. The point is we know where those pivots are most likely to occur. And just knowing where those turning points are likely to occur, what does it do? It helps us set up a more neutral trade, which allows us to help determine the direction of the trade once the trade breaks out. And more importantly, it gives us our price targets. So this basic idea of line drawing is all you need to start setting up a trade. Once you've got your lines drawn, you can start setting up and say, this is where I should get into a trade. This is my price target to get out of the trade. Now, what happens if the trade goes against me? Well, this is where my stop's going to go. That's the foundation of your trading plan, the entry, the target, and the stop. Now, just because you've got the lines drawn, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to interpret the data perfectly. All it does is it gives us a structure, a framework. In order to start getting into the trades, in order to start getting into the trends as they're moving, we need some additional analysis tools. And the next tool that I introduced you to was the tool of moving averages. We learned that moving averages are a trend's best friend. And since we always say in the world of trading, the trend is your friend, the moving averages can certainly become your friend as well. It is also the trend's best friend. It is your best friend. It's fantastic, these moving averages. We've got three ways we use those moving averages as I introduced you. Introduced you to the idea of the trend direction. If we're trading above the moving averages, we're in a bullish trend. If we're trading below the moving averages, we're in a bearish trend. If the moving averages are going sideways, we're not in a trend. We learned about the moving average cross. When the averages are crossing, it's triggering us. It's giving us a signal that the trade's going in the opposite direction and possibly a new trend is setting up. And then, of course, we learn how support and resistance can be revealed in the moving averages as well, simply by recognizing that the trend is really shaping up based on a general angle of a trend, and the moving averages tend to copy that angle of the trend. All right, that was your moving averages. Now, once we got the moving averages out of the way, you guys can actually start setting up some basic trend following systems. But having a basic trend following system doesn't make you a great trader, and it doesn't necessarily give you all the flexibility that you need. So what was the next skill or the next tool that I gave you? The next tool was your chart patterns. And so we went through the chart pattern discussions. We learned how chart patterns are simply patterns of behavior. They form during the transitions of market sentiment. So as you're getting into a trade, or maybe you've been in a trade for a while, the market starts to reveal a shift in sentiment. As that shift in sentiment starts to happen, there's a good chance that there's going to be a reversal in the trend. When you have a reversal in the trend, what happens? The reversal in the trend sets you up for a new trend. That is a big money-making opportunity. Then as this trend starts to reverse, certain patterns tend to emerge that we call continuation patterns. As the trend is continuing, certain patterns emerge. As the patterns emerge, what are they doing? They're giving us insight into the sentiment of the trader. Realize that what's happening here, everything that we have studied is all pointing back to the same common theme. Everything that we've studied points back to the sentiment of the human emotion, the speculation in the stock market. Now, how revolutionary is this for some of you who never knew anything about trading the stock market necessarily, certainly by trading it by technical analysis? For those of you who've never studied technical analysis, this should be revolutionary. Because for millions of people around the world, they spend hours, sometimes weeks, studying the fundamental information about a stock, trying to figure out what's the next price value, and then the stock does something they didn't expect, and they say, why? I studied this thing for hours, and it did the opposite. Well, you get outside of that, you realize that it's not the fundamentals that are driving the stock, but rather it's the human emotion that's driving it. So chart patterns, just one more step here. All right, now, there were 3 classifications of patterns that we learned about. There's the reversal patterns, the consolidation patterns, and the continuation patterns. And of course, if you need to reference those, you can just go back to the level 2 material where we talked about the individual chart patterns. Next step in your analysis process was getting into more details. Every step is getting more and more fine-tuned. So the line drawing, a big picture, moving averages, pretty good size picture, identifying the different levels of the trend. We move a little bit closer into the details with our chart patterns. We go very close into the details with our candlesticks. Of course, our candlesticks come to us from Japan. We want to use these candles to help confirm the other Western signals. Now, what were the other Western signals? Well, your line drawing, your chart patterns, your moving averages. This is typical traditional Western analysis, Western technical analysis. What the candlesticks do is they give us even more insight, help us confirm those. Sometimes it gives us an early detection to what might be happening in terms of the shift in trading sentiment, and always it either gives us a confirmation or a warning of what's going on, just like any indication is doing. Best seen in terms of the candlesticks, best seen in the market as an indicator of market sentiment. Beautiful thing about candlesticks, within 1 or 2 days, we very, very often can see a complete shift in market sentiment. That's why they're so powerful for us. And then once we got through our candlesticks, we said, now how do we confirm all of this? How do we bundle up our 5 steps to confirmation? And we said we use our technical indicators for that. Technical indicators, great way to measure the underlying price action. They're a tool that help us confirm our analysis, or they alert us to something that we did not see. And if compared to our legacy program, I took a couple indicators out, really trying to streamline the use of indicators, making this process as simple yet as thorough as possible, using the 3 oscillators, the RSI, the stochastics, and the MACD. And then I introduced you to Bollinger Bands, and finally the ADX, which is the measurement of the strength of the trend. All right, all of these steps that we've just gone through, this is your analysis. I've delivered. I promise I delivered it to you. I gave you a fantastic foundation in understanding trading analysis, and we've given you the 5 steps to confirmation. If you can get all 5 of these steps to either completely confirm or mostly confirm, your odds of being in a winning side of a trade are much, much better. More importantly, once you've done your analysis, once you've been able to walk through your 5 steps and say, what do my support and resistance tell me? What does my moving averages tell me? What do my chart patterns tell me? What do my candlesticks tell me? What about the indicators? Once you go through it all, you can form a decision and a picture about which direction the stock is most likely going. And once you're able to pick a direction, what do you do then? Well, now we've got to apply ourselves a strategy. And so as we look at the strategies that we learned 5 strategies. We learned 2 stock strategies, 2 option strategies, and 1 combined strategy where we use some stock and options. The 2 stock strategies are the strategy of buying stock long, which creates a bullish trade, the strategy of selling stock short, which is going to be used for a bearish strategy. In terms of option strategies, we learned about buying calls and buying puts, buying calls being bullish, buying puts being bearish. And then, of course, in the combination category, we learned about covered calls, which is a combination of using a long stock and selling call options against it. Buying stock and then selling the option against it. Very safe strategy, relatively speaking, and very, very good strategy for many people, certainly the types of trades that a lot of you want to do in your retirement accounts and with other stock that you've already got. All right, now once you've got the strategies, once you've got the analysis, we got to pull it all together. That's where we started talking about putting together a system and then creating your plan. So the process of the system, it's going to feature an analysis process, which we just went through those 5 steps of the trade confirmation. That is your analysis. We are going to feature a strategy. You got to pick a strategy. Then you got to write your plan, and of course we want to measure that plan and be able to repeat the system over and over. So as we break down the planning process, there's 3 steps of the plan. We've got your entry, we've got your target, we've got your stop. Without these 3 pieces of information, you do not have a trading plan. What do you do once you've established that? Well, you document it. You start setting yourself up with a journal or some way that you can track it. I gave you guys this opportunity to print off these journals here, or you can adapt it however you wish to do so. I really don't care how you journal it. As long as you're getting a journal, as long as you're creating a way to write a trading plan, certainly at the very beginning. Now, if you've been trading for 10, 15 years and you've got this stuff kind of ingrained in your head, you don't necessarily need the journal as tightly because you'll probably be able to do a lot of it on autopilot. But while you're practicing this, especially while you're going through trader conditioning, while you're getting into learning all this, you need to document it, write it down. I promise you, this is how we did it. This is the best way to learn. If you don't make your notes, you're not going to learn from your mistakes. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to repeat your mistakes when it's game day, when you're actually in the process of really doing the trades for real. You got to write this stuff down, journal it, learn it, apply it, and that's going to make you a much better trader. Now, how do we take all of that head knowledge and turn it into a skill set? Well, that's where the trader conditioning process comes in. So I've walked you through the trader conditioning process. This is the process through which you can translate your head knowledge or your book knowledge into a qualified skill set, which allows you to trade the market effectively. And in my opinion, this is your deepest key to success. As a quick reminder, here are the steps to the trader conditioning process. We've got the drilling phase. This is where you use the back trading feature of your charting software, and you go back in time and you go forward one day at a time to drill the different aspects of your trading analysis. Then as you're getting your drilling phase really underway, you can really do your analysis. Now it's time to start trading it. Now we don't want to have to wait 24 hours to see if we were right or wrong. So that's why we use the back trading feature of your charting software to do what I call speed trading, where you set your trade up, you write your trading plan, boom, you push it forward one day, you see how well you did. Yes, it takes time. And yes, it is so freaking effective that over a weekend, you can get literally several months worth of trading experience done in a weekend. That's incredible. Some of you, the only thing that's holding you back from being successful and being a rock star in terms of trading is the fact you don't have the experience. All you need to do is just sit down with your virtual trading scenario, not virtual, sorry, your historical trading scenario, and just go through months of speed trading. And what you can do in just 2 or 3, 4 weekends, you can literally get years worth of trading experience, years worth of invaluable experience and knowledge. And as you're applying that knowledge, it's turning it into a skill set. The more you practice it, the more you ingrain it into your mind, what's it going to do? It's going to become a habit. The more you have the right habits in setting your trades up and executing those trades, the more likely they're going to be to come out when you're actually trading for real and you're getting into a real live game day scenario. Now, once you've got all your drilling in place, once you know your analysis, once you got your speed trading done, and you say, okay, I'm really doing this well, now it's time to start slowing the process down, get into the pace of a real live trading scenario, move into virtual trading, work through the order forms, make sure you're applying the strategies right, you're preparing for game day. What do we call this? I use the analogy that it's like the preseason games in the NFL. They don't count for anything. They're just really, it's a big deal. You make a big deal about it. You try to win. If you screw up, no big deal. The season hasn't started yet. You go back to the trading or to the practice field, and you do some more drills. You do some more speed drills and whatnot. But then what happens? You go back to another preseason game. You try it again. And hopefully by the time game day starts, you don't play like the Titans, but rather you're playing like a team that's actually playing as a team, and you're winning some games. And that's where you start trading real money. Okay, now the real money process, you want to keep it in check. If you go through several trades in a row and you start losing money, pull back. Try to figure out where you're going wrong. See what's breaking down. Odds are you're breaking your rules. As we looked at in the last class, you're probably breaking rules. You're probably doing bad risk management. You're probably not waiting for trade confirmation. You're breaking down somewhere, and the reality is the virtual trading, real-time virtual trading, that's where you're going to be able to isolate. It's the closest to real trading as you can get without putting real money on the line. So you need to spend a lot of time there working through it. Now, once you've gone through the trader conditioning system, once you've become good at your analysis, once you've done your speed drills, once you get into the real time, you're trading real money, you never lose sight of the fact that you're always in a cycle of progress. And the cycle of progress starts like this. You have an outcome. You have your objective. What do you want to accomplish? You establish your plan. You set your action in motion, you measure your actions, you adjust your plan, you go back to your new plan, you put that into action, you measure it, you adjust, plan, action, measure, adjust. And as I drilled home a couple classes ago, the one thing that's missing from the cycle of progress is that nasty F-bomb, failure. Failure is nowhere in the cycle of progress. You will not make progress on your journey unless you take failure out of it. There is no room for failure. Failure is simply a stepping stone on that road to success. And if you're going to go down this journey and you set out and you say, I want to do it, I'm going to go all the way through, I'm going to finish my journey. If you're going to do that, you must stay on the road of progress and understand that the road of progress does not include failure. Failure it's an experience. It's an opportunity. It's not an end of the road. It's not an identity. It's a result. It's a result in this process. So if you look at this, you say, well, I made my objective. I want to make money, obviously. I made my plan. I implemented my plan. I took my action. I measure it. Turns out I lost money. Is this failure? No. What is this? This is a result. That's it. You measure your action, you find out you lost money. It's not failure. It's simply a result. Now, is it a failure of doing good analysis? Possibly. Is it a failure of execution properly? Possibly. For example, Butch sent out an email this afternoon about a friend of his, got into a covered call, freaked out because he woke up this morning, didn't realize there was a big announcement coming out, woke up this morning, it was $20,000 in the hole, according to his account, freaked out, contacted Butch, and Butch said, no, you did a covered call. All you did was made $4,000. Looks like you lost 20, but you didn't really lose 20,000. You made $4,000, and here's the moral of the story. Had you done a better trade, you could have made 20,000, but you're not in the hole, right? Well, that was a little error, a little mistake, a little misjudgment. Didn't mean it was failure. It just meant it was a learning opportunity. And in that case, for Butch's friend, he actually still made $4,000 on the trade. So way to go, Butch's friend. Here's the point of the story. Failure is nowhere in the cycle of progress. It doesn't exist. And if you're going to be successful, you've got to learn to recognize that. You're going to lose some money. It's guaranteed you're going to lose some money. So if you lose money, measure it. Figure out why you lost money. Did you mess up your analysis? Did it just not go the way you thought? I mean, maybe it's just as simple as the trade looked perfect and it didn't go and work out the way that the statistics said it would work out. That is the game. That's what happens. And as we learned in the last class, you got to learn to plan for that. Use good money management. Use good risk management. Expect that you might place more losing trades than winning trades. But if you're managing your money properly, you're limiting your risk, you've got a good risk reward, here's the important thing that you need to understand. You will be able to survive for another day, and you'll be able to keep trading. That's your goal as a trader. Do good money management, do good risk management, use good risk reward ratios, use options, use other tools that will allow you to leverage or to hedge your positions and not necessarily put yourself in a situation where you can lose everything. Don't put valuable money on the line that you can't possibly afford to lose. Make sure you're trading smart, and I don't say that to play off of our name. I'm literally saying use your noggin. Just use your noggin. You know if you can afford to lose that money, and if you can't afford to lose it, you shouldn't be playing with it. That's called foolishness. But once you've got your skill set down, once you've gotten to the point where you can trade, you got some money set aside that if you did lose it, it wouldn't be the end of the world, great. Set yourself up, use good money management, plan the cycle of progress. You're going to make your plans, you're going to take some action, you're going to measure it, you're going to adjust, plan, action, measure, adjust. If you do this, at the end of the day, you should be successful. And maybe, you might experience what I think every trader's experienced at some point, where you get into a series of great trades, you make a bunch of money, and then you blow the account out. And you say, why did I do that? Does that mean that it doesn't work? No, it just means that somewhere your system broke down, you broke down. You can keep improving it. Never accept failure as the end of the road. It's not. It's just an opportunity to get a result and measure that result. Now, in the process of all of this discussion, what has happened? Well, whether you realize it or not, I've been ingraining into you a winning mindset. And hopefully you've taken it to heart. Most of you have taken it to heart. A winning philosophy, just the stuff I just mentioned right there. It's part of the mindset of being a great trader. Great traders recognize failure is not part of the process. It's just a result. You just get the data, you put it back into the funnel. Now, I realize emotionally it doesn't feel like it's just a result, but if you can separate your emotions from it, which the plans will help you do, guess what? It's just going to be a result. And that's what a winning philosophy looks at. A winning philosophy says money is not the object here, and it's definitely not the obstacle. Money is just a tool. We're just going to go out there and do it. The obstacle here is to become better, to change the way that I look at it, believe that I can do it, and recognize that I have an opportunity in this market. And most importantly, where does this opportunity lead us? Well, this opportunity in the stock market, it's not the end of the road. It's just part of the journey. In the very beginning, what did we do? We looked at the whole purpose of why you're doing this, and we said, somewhere along your journey in life, the destination is way, way out there in the future. And on this journey, you've decided that you need to make more money. You've decided that you need to have financial freedom. And so you jump on this journey and you start running down the road, and along this road that we'll call life, this road of life, Trade Smart University came into it. And I have the privilege of being a conduit, somebody that you get to interact with. And I've had the opportunity to work with you guys for the last several months. And hopefully many of you will hang around and we get to work together for several more months moving forward. But the bottom line is Trade Smart's not the end of the road, and trading's not the end of the road. It's just part of the journey. So as we think about the end of the Foundations program, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. The real goal is about the person that you start to evolve into along this journey that we call life. Why? Because what we really want to do is we want to get closer and closer to that thing, that ever important thing that we refer to as your purpose, your core created purpose, the very reason that you are here. Now, here's the question. Will we arrive there? And I'm going to propose to you the answer is no. We probably will never fully get to the point of our created purpose. If so, if you get to your goals and you say, well, I've arrived, then you either have to set further goals or you start to atrophy. And the reality is if you don't have ambitious enough goals, what will happen is you get closer and closer to those goals is you'll start to pull away because you don't have anything else to push beyond it. But if you set yourself with these goals and you say, this is my goal, but my big picture goal's over here, here's what happens. Let's say along this journey to success, right here's a little trading win. And maybe this trading win means I've learned to trade stock, okay? And then maybe along this journey over here, you've got another little win. But maybe this win is I've learned how to invest in real estate. And maybe along over here, you've got another little win, but this little win is I've learned how to set up businesses. And maybe right along here, you've got another little win, but this little win is I've set myself up a nonprofit organization that does good for the world. And maybe right along here, you've got another little win, and this little win is I've built myself a family trust. And maybe right along here, you've got another little win, and this little win says I have taught my grandchildren how to manage money and how to trade. Most importantly, you get to the end, and this is called the end of your life. And the question is, as you look back upon the end of your life, can you say, this journey that I've traveled on has added. This has been something that's been worth the journey. I've added to the world. I've created for the world. I've given back to the world. Now, I don't know what your milestones are. I'm using money milestones. Your milestones are probably different, and they probably should be different because money is not enough of a motivating factor to take you all the way to the end. Along this journey, you've got to have substance, things that are really, really important. If you were drawing out my map here, somewhere along this map right here, what does it look like? It looks like Trade Smart University, giving back to other people and helping them learn how to trade the stock market. Why? Because I recognize, for me personally, this is part of my purpose. This is part of the thing, at least at this road in my life, this point in my road in life, this is the place where I've been placed. This is a wonderful thing that I can do, that I can contribute to the world. And most importantly, what happens, I get to talk to hundreds of you every night and add into your lives and to sow into your lives. And as I get your emails back, you guys tell me the changes that you're making in your lives, and we realize what a great contribution we've been able to make there. It is truly the most rewarding portion of my journey up until this part of my life. It's been absolutely fantastic. So you have to remember, on this journey, your real objective is to be moving towards your created purpose and understanding that along this journey, the little milestones you hit, it's not about the goal, it's not about the milestone, it's about the person that you become along that journey. Now, that is an incredibly inspiring place to be in life, and if you'll take that philosophy, you will be in the very few, the upper echelon of people who say, I'm going to make massive difference in my life. I'm going to make massive difference in the world. I'm going to live a life of purpose. All right, now, let me give you guys some quotes to just kind of take you out here on. Here's one of my favorites. It's only the quest of a worthy goal where we can truly discover the worthy life that we were intended to live. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm constantly getting pushback from about 1 or 2% of my students. And they say, Jeremy, you're just full of hot air if you say it's not about the money. And all I can say, ladies and gentlemen, is it's not about the money. I know that you don't believe me half the time. Some of you think, oh, he's full of hot air. Some of you have the guts to speak up and say, Jeremy, you're full of hot air. And I'm just going to stick to it. Guys, accomplish your goal. And find the meaning. Find the meaning beyond it. Because the only real reason to set those goals is for the substance that it gives to your life. And that substance is ultimately going to be in giving back to other people. Real substance, real purpose. And I can't drive it home enough. Please, please, please find that real purpose. Why is this journey worth it? Why is it worth it to push through, to do the hours of trader conditioning that it takes to become a successful trader so you can make a profit, so you can go out and do other things and you get your finances under control? Here's why it's worth it. Because if you don't break the financial cycle, you will live in financial slavery. And that is a horrible place to live. Break the financial slavery. That's when you are free to live the life that you were created to live, to give back to people. You got to break free from this. It's worth it. I promise. It's worth the goal. It's worth the journey. Now, here's a more important one maybe. How long does it take? And here's how long it takes. It takes a little while. It takes just a little while. This is the amazing thing to me. As you sow into your life, as you sow into the lives of other people, it doesn't take you a lifetime. It takes a little while. People say it takes you forever to learn how to trade the market. No, it doesn't. It takes a little while. Now, how long is a little while? I don't know. A little while for some of you might be 4 or 5 months. A little while for others might be 4 or 5 years. I don't know. It depends on how much you sow into it and how fast. But here's the important thing. Understanding this. Most people will not do for a little while. And understanding that most people won't do for a little while, what happens? What happens? They get the results of the majority of the individuals. Now, we've talked about this. We've said, if you want to be a successful trader, what do you have to do? You have to do what the majority will not do and what the minority are willing to do. Well, here's how it works, all in one little sentence. If you will do for a little while what most people won't, you can do for a lifetime what most people can't. So, Frank, what that means for you is if you'll take the time to do the trader conditioning process, you'll take the time to do your retakes, to come back through here, to work through all of the analysis processes that I've taught you, to learn the mechanics of placing your trades, to learn various option strategies, to learn how to do good risk management. How long does that take? I don't know. Everybody's different. Some people can spend a lot more time. Jeremy Newsom, I think, spent 24 hours a day working on it, and he learned it a lot faster. Some people, they can only spend 2 or 3 hours a week. But if you'll do it for a little while, just keep planting, keep sowing, keep putting into your life, keep building your skill sets up. Do it for a little while. It's going to give you a skill set that you can use for the rest of your life. The good news is, a year from now, you'll be looking back in these classes, you'll say, that was the best time I ever spent in my life because I sowed into myself and I planted these seeds, and these seeds, they grew up and they flourished into a plant that keeps feeding me over and over and over again. Now I have a skill set. Now my neighbors look at me and they say, well, how are you doing that? And you say, because I did for a little while. You should try it. You should go take some classes at TradeSmart. And what do they say? They say, no, it's too much time. I don't have time to go take some classes at TradeSmart. And you say, that's why you can't do for a lifetime. I can do this for a lifetime because I took the action and I did my classes at TradeSmart. Then your family looks at you and they say, well, how do you do this? And you say, I did for a little while. You should try it. You just look, it's a free class. I'm going to take you to a scholarship. I'll hold your hand. I'll put you on the website. What do they say? My internet's not fast enough. I just don't have the time. And you say, you should try it just for a little while. What do they say? They have excuse after excuse. You go beyond your family members. You find your best friends, and your best friends say, Bob, how did you change your life so radically in just a couple years? And you say, I did for a little while. They say, what did you do for a little while? You say, it started with a little scholarship, and I planted, and I kept sowing, and I did for a little while. Bob, you should try it. You should try it, Bob. It's not hard. It's just a little while. And Bob comes up with all of his excuses. And before you know it, Bob and your family members and your neighbors are 55, 60, 70, 75, 80 years old, and they're sitting on their deathbed, and they look back at their journey in life, and they say, I never accomplished what I wanted. And maybe you go visit them, and you say, you should have done for a little while, because look what I was able to do. Look what I was able to accomplish just because for a little while I did what you weren't willing to do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the philosophy of developing a skill set, a mindset, something that's life-changing. You want to go start a business, go try it for a little while. Plant the seeds for a little while. Invest in yourself for a little while so you can develop something that you can have for a lifetime. You want to learn to trade the stock market. Practice it for a little while. Learn just for a little. It doesn't take forever. If it took forever, then we couldn't do it. But it doesn't take forever. Therefore, we can do it. You want to learn to play a musical instrument. What do? You have to practice for a little while. You want to learn to speak a foreign language. What do you have to do? You have to just dig in, get some Rosetta Stone, get some Pimsleur, learn it for a little while. And eventually what happens? You can speak the language for a lifetime. It's a skill set. Trading is a skill just like everything else is a skill. And if you'll just take a little time for a little while, you can learn to do it. And if you learn to do it for a little while, guess what? You can do it for a lifetime. Because once you've learned, yeah, you might have to keep it sharp, but they can't take it away from you. Once you learn a foreign language, can they take it from you? No, it's in your mind. It's part of who you are. You might get a little rusty. You might have to go back to the country where that language is native, and you might have to practice a little bit. But they can't take it all from you. You learn to play a musical instrument. Can they take it all from you? No, you get a little rusty. You might squeak a little bit when you play. You practice it enough, you can get those skills right back. They come. It might take you 15, 20 years, a little while. But then once you come back to it after you stepped away from it, it might take you 3 or 4 months. And before you know it, you're right back where you were. Trading is the same way. Do for a little while right now. Build your skill set. Maybe you don't use it next year. Maybe you don't use it the next year. Maybe it gets a little rusty. You come back. You study it up. You practice it. It'll come right back to you. That's the amazing thing about developing your mind and developing your skills. If you just do it for a little while, you can do it for a lifetime. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what will separate you from the majority of the world. Tonight, the presidential candidates are about to start debating, and they're going to talk about all these crazy things about how the government can help all these people of the world and how they can do various things. And you don't need it. The American dream is simple. Personal responsibility, a land of opportunity. Give me the opportunity to do for a little while, and with my dadgum rugged individualism, I will accomplish it, and don't take it away from me. Just for a little while. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the spirit of capitalism. This is the spirit of America. This is the thing that has kept this country going for the last couple of 100 years. It's the thing that people risk their life to leave their native lands for, to come over here so they can say, just give me an opportunity. That's all I need. Not a government. You can rely on the government all you want. You're never going to get where you want to be. That just makes you part of the majority. That's not who you want to be. It's not who you are, and it's not what you were created to be. Every one of us were given the opportunity for personal responsibility to step up and say, I'm going to do it. And then what happened? The majority said, I don't want to do it for a little while. I want the result, but I don't want to sow into it for a little while. Don't be the majority, be the minority. Be the top 10%, be the top 1%. Do for a little while what most people won't. So you can do for a lifetime what most people can't. Then you say, well, what happens if the government comes in and takes it? Who cares? If nothing else, you've got the pride. If nothing else, you can say, I did it. And you can keep voting and you can keep doing the things to try to maintain the government wherever they are and keep them as far at bay as you can keep them. But here's the reality. If you never step out, you'll never go anywhere. You've got to start. You've got to take the action. And here's the best part of all. What if it all turns around? What if the government doesn't try to take it over? Because after all, the spirit of America is strong. The spirit of America is fantastic. And maybe we're going through an awkward moment, a piece of American history where we'll look back at it and we'll say, wow, that was difficult. What are you going to tell your children? What are you going to tell your grandchildren? I lived through that one. I survived it, and because I was doing things that most people weren't. Look at where we are today. America is in an interesting situation. The world is in an interesting situation, a situation where there is potentially a lot of negative economic situations coming our way. Here's the important thing. In every great economic tragedy, whatever it is, some people rise to the top. Your challenge is to recognize the diversity, to recognize the opportunity, and say, I'm going to rise to the top, regardless of the circumstance. Whenever you say that, you become a leader, you become a standard setter, and most importantly, your family looks back at you and they say, you had a legacy. That, ladies and gentlemen, is worth living. That's a reason to step out and say, this journey is not in vain. If you just push for the money, it's not worth it. But if you push for the person that you